Listen well, for the shadows have a story to tell. This is the tale of a young ninja, bound by honor, strength, and a mission that would reveal his fortitude. 18 springs he has seen, each year sharpening his body, hardening his spirit, until he became one with the shadows. And now, as the night covers the land, he steps into his first mission, where courage and cunning will guide his every move. For in the shadows lies his fate, and a death one day that will leave no trace of who he was and where he came from except those he loves and left behind. The young ninja slips into the forest, moving silently from tree to tree. The young ninja takes a breath, his face a blend of excitement and determination. Suddenly, the life of a young boy training, leaping between trees, slashing through practice dummies, mastering his balance atop a cliff, replays in his mind. In the heart of a vast, shadowy forest, where the moonlight barely kissed the earth, a young boy named Kaito set forth on his first mission. I, his old master, had watched over him as he trained for many years, molding him into the warrior he was destined to become. As I share this tale, let it remind you of the weight of choices and the burdens that every warrior must carry. Kaito was just 18 winters old, a tender age for one embarking on such a perilous journey. The forest around him was alive, filled with the rustling of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze and the distant hoot of an owl, the sounds echoing in the night, amplifying the tension within his spirit. This was not merely a mission, it was a test of his skills and a trial that would define his very essence. As he crept closer to a flickering campfire, the warmth it offered sharply contrasted with the chill in his heart. Before that fire sat a man, no, a monster, a bandit notorious for robbing and harming countless villagers. I had trained Kaito for this moment, teaching him the ways of stealth and precision, instilling in him a sense of justice. Yet, as he approached, I could see the hesitation in his eyes, the fear of crossing a line from which he could never return. In his mind, this was justice, but he grappled with the weight of that decision. I watched, sensing his internal struggle, as he questioned himself, can I truly do this? The real battle lay not with the bandit before him, but within his own soul. I knew this journey would not just test his skills, but also challenge his very understanding of life and death. Kaito watched the bandit, half dozing and oblivious to the danger looming nearby. His training had taught him to be swift and decisive, to seize the moment. If he didn't stop this man, I had reminded him, he would continue to spread pain, leaving a trail of suffering behind. Determination surged within him as he lunged forward, striking with the precision I had instilled in him. The gasp of the bandit echoed in the stillness, their eyes meeting Kaito's for a fleeting instant before the light faded from them. In that moment, Kaito felt the crushing weight of his actions. What have I done? The question throbbed relentlessly in his mind as he withdrew his blade, staring at the blood staining his hands. He was meant to feel justified, to embrace the notion of justice. Yet, in the quiet of the forest, all he felt was loss. He stumbled back, retreating into the shadows like a ghost. I could see the memory of that fleeting gaze haunt him, replaying with brutal clarity, the shock, the fear, and finally, the emptiness that enveloped him as the man's spirit fled. Kaito returned to the village, the glow of its lights offering no comfort, merely reminders of the lives he had set out to protect. That night, he crept into his quarters, clutching his sword, its weight heavier than ever. The other trainees were blissfully asleep, unaware of the turmoil churning within him. Sleep eluded Kaito, slipping through his grasp like sand. As dawn broke, casting light through the thin walls of his quarters, I found him weary and burdened. I led him to the still waters of a small pond, where the morning light filtered through the leaves, dappling the ground in gold. Tell me about your mission, I said simply, my heart heavy with understanding. Kaito hesitated, his voice barely a whisper. The target, he's dead. I struck, just like you taught me. Swiftly. But I hesitated. It felt heavy. Taking a life is a profound burden, I thought, and I understood that this moment would shape him for years to come. If you feel its weight, then you are not lost, I reassured him. It means you possess a heart that values life, even when you must take it. Kaito gazed into the pond, his reflection a shadow of the young warrior he had hoped to be, marked by the exhaustion of a sleepless night. Do you know why we train so rigorously? I asked gently. Why we learn to make our bodies as silent and precise as shadows. To bring justice, he murmured, though the words tasted bitter. Yes, I affirmed, but also to bear the weight of our choices. Taking a life is no small thing, Kaito. It is not meant to be easy. If you feel the weight of it, you honor the lives you take by not forgetting them. The choices we make as warriors define who we are, shaping our paths and guiding us through the darkness. We stood in silence, the stillness of the morning wrapping around us like a comforting embrace. The weight on Kaito's heart did not vanish, but it shifted, settling deeper, becoming something he could hold instead of something that crushed him. "Come," I said, stepping back. "You will return to training. There is more to learn, more to face. Remember this, Kaito, every warrior carries ghosts. It is how we carry them that defines who we are." Kaito nodded, his gaze returning to the pond, watching the ripples form from a falling leaf. The weight was still there, but it felt manageable, something he could hold with honor. As he followed me back toward the village, he took one last glance over his shoulder at the pond, letting the morning sun touch his face. In that warmth, he began to feel the softness of understanding. Days turned into weeks, and Kaito immersed himself in training, channeling his feelings of guilt and sorrow into the relentless pursuit of excellence. Each swing of his sword became a meditation, each breath a reminder of the weight he carried. The pain of his first kill transformed into fuel for his growth. I watched as he learned to accept that he would always bear the burden of that night, but it would not define him. He became more skilled, learning to navigate the emotional landscape of being a warrior. He shared his fears with his fellow trainees, who listened and supported him. In their camaraderie, he found solace, a reminder that he was not alone in his struggles. They, too, carried the weight of their choices and the ghosts of those they could not save. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Kaito and his comrades gathered around a fire. The warmth of the flames flickered in their eyes, and laughter filled the air as they shared stories of past missions and the challenges that lay ahead. It was in that moment of shared humanity that Kaito realized the importance of connection. He could not escape the weight he bore, but he could share it, lightening the load through the bonds he forged with others. "Tell us about your first mission, Kaito," one of the trainees prompted, a playful grin on his face. Kaito hesitated, the memory still fresh in his mind. Yet, he felt a newfound strength in sharing his experience, in allowing others to understand the gravity of their choices. With a deep breath, he recounted the tale, omitting none of the struggles and doubts he faced. As he spoke, the laughter faded, replaced by a profound respect for the burdens they all carried. The atmosphere grew solemn, the weight of his story hanging in the air. When he finished, Kaito looked around, finding understanding and empathy reflected in the eyes of his friends. "We all carry ghosts," he said softly, "but together, we can find a way to honor them." In that moment, Kaito knew he was not just a warrior but part of something greater. He had transformed his burden into a source of strength, a lesson in humility and compassion that would guide him throughout his journey. As they resumed their light-hearted banter, Kaito felt the ghosts within him shift. They no longer haunted him but walked beside him, companions on his path to becoming the warrior he aspired to be. In their presence, he found the courage to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that with each step, he would carry the weight of his choices with honor and grace. And so, my young students, remember Kaito's journey well. In every choice lies the potential for growth, and within every warrior lies the strength to carry their burdens. The path of a ninja is not merely about skill and strength, it is about the heart, the ability to understand the value of life, and the courage to face the shadows that dwell within. Some of you stay at the floor, thoughtful. Others are still, holding my gaze, feeling the weight of that tale pressing on your shoulders. I will leave you with this verse, young warriors. In silence he falls, where shadows dare roam. Under a veil of moonlight, far from home. Steel-stained and cold, his journey's end near. No voice to call, no ally here. The stars bear witness, though none may see. A solitary end to secrecy. Leaves murmur soft as the wind whispers by. A lone ninja's vow beneath the empty sky. His life was a shadow, unseen, unknown. Bound by an oath, sworn and alone. His blade was feared, his face unseen. A warrior lost in a world between. To live without glory, to fight without fame. To walk in silence, forsaking a name. And in his last hour, as his breath fades away, No song to be sung, no debt to repay. Yet there in the dark, where mystery sleeps, his soul finds solace in shadows deep. Bound to the night, he becomes one with the past, a ghost in silence, at peace at last. No stone will mark where his memory lies. No voices will call, no mourners' cries. In the cloak of the night, he is bound by grace, forever at rest in a shadow's embrace. Remember this, the path you walk is one of shadows, not glory. The darkness you move through may be your only witness. Someday, you may end without a whisper, no song, no tribute, no tale. Yet your honor is bound to the silent night, and that will be enough. Now, rest. There are other tales yet to tell. Greetings, young warriors. Is it me you are seeking? Why are your faces so long this evening? What burden rests so heavily upon your shoulders that it pulls your spirits to the ground? I see it in your eyes, the weight of disappointment, pressing down like the oppressive darkness of a stormy night. You carry it with you like a cloak, obscuring the fire that once lit your path. Oh, I hear it, too, the whispers of discontent, the murmurs of failure and frustration that crackle in the air like distant thunder. I feel the quiver of disappointment in each of you, a coldness that lingers like the chill of rain. Your voices rumble softly with doubt, tinged with the regret of what might have been. I can feel it within you, swirling, a storm of self-doubt, brewing, gathering force. You feel as though you are but dust, scattered by the merciless winds of this world, as if you are not enough. You look to the heavens, wondering if perhaps your dreams were mere illusions, blown away by fate's unyielding breath. But let me tell you this, failure is not your undoing. Failure is not the end, unless you give it the power to be so. It is not defeat, but the first clap of thunder, a reminder that storms, though fierce, are a necessary force of nature, clearing the skies, feeding the earth, and readying it for new growth. Yes, today you may have met a challenge that broke upon you like the sea crashing against the rocks, but that does not mean you are weak. No, it means that you are learning, adapting, and strengthening with every breath. The winds have shifted, carrying with them lessons hidden within each gust, each relentless wave. This storm calls you to rise stronger. Listen closely, for I know your hearts better than you realize. You let your pride roar louder than your wisdom. You let impatience cloud your judgment, convinced that sheer strength alone would see you through the storm. But you are mistaken, for the world, this battlefield you have chosen, is as unpredictable as lightning, as wild as the raging winds. Not everything can be defeated with brute force. Not every obstacle can be shattered with raw power. Some challenges require a subtler approach, a softer strength, and unyielding patience. The test today was not meant to crush you, though I know many of you feel that it did. No, it was meant to teach. You did not falter because you lacked speed or strength. You faltered because you clung to what was familiar, holding tight to the known, standing rigid before the shifting storm. You tried to harness the winds, instead of bending to their flow. You let your pride thunder in your ears, drowning out the wisdom of the world around you. Now, gather close, for tonight, I share more than a story. I give you a warning, a tale etched by lightning, wrought by storms, carried through the ages. In the old days, when our world was touched by the spirit realm, shadows held secrets that mortals could barely comprehend. This tale begins in the era of the civil war of Wa, a time when the skies themselves were torn by the roar of thunder, and the rains fell like the tears of the gods. It was a time of division and struggle, a time when the human spirit was tested as fiercely as the earth itself. In those dark days, there was a lone samurai, lost and weary, wandering through a forest thick with mist, lashed by torrents so fierce they blurred the line between earth and sky. His horse trudged onward, its coat soaked, its spirit as worn as his own. Then, with a crack of lightning, the poor beast reared, panic flashing in its eyes before it bolted into the shadows, leaving the samurai alone in the mud, drenched, with miles to go before he could hope for warmth or shelter. A lesser man might have despaired, might have cursed the heavens for his misfortune. But this samurai was no ordinary warrior. He stilled his spirit, drawing on years of training. He knew of the forest's dangers, the stories of restless spirits and creatures that danced in the mist. And so, step by step, he pressed forward, each footfall sinking into the mud, the rain piercing his skin, his resolve his only warmth in that endless, chilling night. Then, through the sheets of rain, he glimpsed a faint light flickering in the distance. His weary eyes strained to focus, was it real, or a trick of the storm? But as he approached, the light grew stronger, cutting through the storm like a beacon, leading him to a grand manor house that seemed untouched by the winds and rain, every window aglow with warmth, inviting and strange. The door opened before he could even knock, and there, framed in golden light, stood a woman of unearthly beauty. Her hair was black as storm clouds, her eyes gleaming like stars obscured by the darkness. She did not speak, only beckoned him forward, her gaze as unwavering as his own. Though every instinct within him screamed caution, the warmth and comfort were too alluring, and his exhaustion too deep. He followed her inside. The manor was an oasis, a realm of serenity amidst the storm. The air was filled with the scent of jasmine, and the walls were lined with tapestries depicting battles long past. A fire crackled at the hearth, its warmth a balm to his weary bones. She served him tea, offered him food, her silence both comforting and unsettling. Soon, lulled by the fire's glow, he slipped into a deep, dreamless sleep. By morning, the storm outside showed no sign of relenting. The woman, whose name he never learned, continued to tend to him. Yet as the day wore on, he began to notice peculiarities, the way her footsteps made no sound, the way her shadow twisted and flickered in ways that defied reason. And at night, when the manor was silent, a haunting melody filled the air, a song winding through the halls like a mist, its beauty both enchanting and unnerving. On the second night, he awoke to that song, a melody so achingly beautiful it felt like sorrow made manifest, like the echoes of an ancient sadness too profound for words. Drawn by it, he found her standing by an open window, her hand outstretched, catching drops of rain. She tasted them with a smile that was both serene and sinister, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. It was then he understood, she was a storm caller, an Emiona, a spirit who commanded the winds and rain, trapping travelers in her melody, draining them of their life, their very essence. The storm outside was her creation, bound to her voice, and as long as she sang, he would be her prisoner, bound within a storm that would never cease. Now, young warriors, I ask you, what should a warrior do when his sword is useless? When can no amount of strength or speed overpower a creature born of the storm? But this samurai was wise. He knew that a true warrior wields more than a blade, he wields his mind, his spirit, his cunning thought. On the third night, he devised a plan. He approached her with a humble bow, praising her beauty and her voice. Honored lady, he said, never have I heard a song so captivating. Sing for me one last time, that I may remember your voice forever. The spirit was pleased, her smile widening, and she agreed to sing for him. But the samurai, clever as he was, produced a small flute from his belongings and began to play a simple melody of his own, weaving his tune with hers, pretending to be enraptured by the harmony. As he played, he praised her, urging her to sing louder, telling her that her voice was unmatched, worthy of being heard by the heavens themselves. All night they played and sang together, his flute and her voice entwining. Her song grew louder, more intense, filling the manor with its haunting beauty. And as dawn approached, her voice began to strain, her song faltering as she pushed herself to match his relentless playing. More, he urged, sing louder still. Let me hear the depths of your power. And so she sang, pouring everything into her song, her voice rising to a desperate crescendo. But by the time the sun broke through the clouds, she was spent. Her voice cracked, faded, and finally went silent. The strain had taken her voice, robbing her of her power to summon storms. The rain outside ceased, the skies cleared, and for the first time in days, a stillness settled over the forest. The samurai took his chance. He bowed low, thanked her for the performance, and slipped out of the manor, walking briskly through the clearing and back into the forest. When he reached the nearby village, he shared his tale, urging the villagers to come with him to confront the spirit. But when they returned to the clearing, the manor was gone. Not a trace of it remained, not a whisper of the storm that had nearly claimed him. Only the faint scent of rain lingered in the air, a silent warning to those who would wander the forest without caution. So remember, young warriors, a warrior's strength is not always found in his arms, nor his sword. The mind, sharp, steady, and unyielding, is what will see you through when all else fails. When you face dangers that cannot be fought, when you stand before forces beyond mortal strength, it is your mind that will carry you out of the darkness. A true warrior does not rely on brute force alone. He knows when to use his wits, when to show patience, and when to turn his enemy's strength against them. Keep your mind keen, for it is the weapon that will serve you long after your blade is broken. So rest well and remember, a failure today is only a prelude to victories of the future. Oh, young ones, gather close. Tonight, I will tell you of Lady Ayam, an Onubugeshwa whose loyalty was tested not by the clash of swords, but by the merciless demand of her own lord. This is a story of devotion, of courage and fear, a test of the spirit that might break even the strongest heart. Listen well. Lady Ayam was a warrior, a protector of her household, and a fierce Onubugeshwa with a heart as sharp as an Ajanota. But even the strongest warrior could not have been prepared for Lord Haidetoka's command. Whispers of disloyalty had reached his ears, rumors of betrayal, and, in his cold wisdom, he decided to test Tokishi, her husband, through the sacrifice of his wife. Lady Ayam was given 3 days to prepare for seppuku, an honorable death, to prove her family's loyalty. 3 days to live with death looming over her. 3 days to confront fear, love, and duty in a battle unlike any she'd fought before. On the first night, she returned home in silence, a weight upon her shoulders that even her stoic husband, Tokishi, could see. She told him the truth, her voice steady yet strained as she revealed her fate. I am an Onubugeshwa, she said. This is my duty. I will not bring shame to you, nor allow our son to bear the shadow of dishonor. They sat together in silence, a silence heavy with love and fear. Tokishi's voice shook as he said, Ayam, you don't have to do this. But she knew he understood. She knew that he, too, bore the weight of duty, and that he would honor her choice, however it tore his heart. As she lay beside him that night, she was haunted by thoughts of a son, Genji, still a boy, not yet ready to face a world without his mother. Will he remember me? Will he resent me for leaving him? The first night passed with a heartbeat like thunder in her ears, each beat reminding her that time was slipping away. On the second day, she trained in the garden, each sweep of her Naginata carving through the morning air. She practiced until her arms shook, until her mind was numb from the rhythm of her strikes, and yet she could not escape her own thoughts. A dark whisper began to creep into her heart, a question she was ashamed to even think. Why should I give my life for a lord so cruel as to demand it? What kind of loyalty demands this? In the afternoon, she watched her son practicing his swordsmanship, the innocence in his face like a knife to her heart. She wanted to cry, to gather him in her arms and tell him she would never leave him. Will he understand my choice? Will he forgive me? She forced herself to stand tall, but inside, fear was gnawing at her spirit, glowing through her resolve. That night, alone under the stars, she sat and gazed at the sky. The vastness of it seemed to press down on her, and she wondered if death would be like this, silent, cold, and eternal emptiness in a dark sky. Her mind, normally calm and controlled, felt like a storm, twisting and turning. Is this truly loyalty, or am I simply too afraid to defy him? On the third day, her heart hollowed by sorrow and her spirit battered by doubt, she moved through her home as if in a dream. She touched the walls, the doorways, the wooden beams, as if to say goodbye to everything she had loved. She visited the family shrine, offering her last prayers, her mind resigned, her heart a storm of pain and pride. In the quiet of her soul, she spoke to herself, her last anchor. I am an Onubugeshwa. I will do this for my family, for my son. I will not falter. That evening, she knelt in her garden, dressed in the white robes of death, the dagger in her hand. Tokishi stood beside her, his face ashen, his heart torn, ready to act as her second, to end her suffering once she began the act. Ayam closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the blade, steadying herself for what was to come. She took a breath and prepared to plunge the dagger into her belly. But just as she began, a voice cut through the silence. Stop. Lord Haidetoka stepped forward from the shadows, his face stern yet softened by an unexpected respect. I have seen enough, he said, his voice like iron. You have shown a loyalty beyond measure, Lady Ayam. You have proven the honor of your family and of yourself. You are more loyal than I deserve to question. Her heart, scarred by those 3 days, surged with relief as she lowered the dagger, her life spared by her Lord's decree. She rose, forever changed, but the trial had left its mark on her. She had faced death, overcome fear, silenced doubt, and though she had lived, she had seen into the depths of her spirit. Lady Ayam's story, young ones, is not just one of loyalty but of the battle within, a reminder that courage is forged in the fires of fear, and that the heart of a true warrior must sometimes bear scars unseen by others. Remember her strength, remember her doubt, and remember that true loyalty may one day ask you for everything you hold dear. This is the way of honor. Hear these words and bind them to your hearts. In shadows deep and fading light, a vow is bound, a heart takes flight. For honor's path is steep and cold. It asks for blood, it asks for soul. A blade lies heavy in the hand. The weight of trust, of last commands. And loyalty's a ghostly chain that binds to courage, binds to pain. To swear an oath, to give one's breath, is to hold love as close as death. To carry all, to stand alone. To trade one's heart for steel and stone. For there are wounds that none may see, where fear and duty twist the key. And in the silence, choice must rise. To guard your kin or close your eyes. The price is steep, the steps are slow. To take each breath, yet still let go. For honor's call, relentless, loud, commands the brave to walk unbowed. And still, the soul, it cannot turn, though fires rage, though losses burn. For in that shadowed, sacred night, the spirit stands, the heart takes flight. To stand for others, fall alone. To give a love the world won't know. Loyalty breaks, yet still lives on. In hearts of heroes dead and gone. Now good night. Go and rest. Tomorrow's light will bring a better day.
静かな森に風が鳴いてる。戦士は血まみれの手を握って愛する者のために命を差し出し、その瞳に永遠の夜を見てた。消える月の光に二人の誓いが埋もれてゆく。あの日の笑顔、今はただの夢の影。これが最後の歌、愛が君を